My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. I thought you were going to work today.
Not till 12. Get my hair done first.
Okay. Can you close your door while I'm sleeping? Is there a reason why you're being so loud while I'm trying to sleep?
Okay. What's gross?
Miss Gross.
Yeah, I remember her. What was she? Our counselor?
Yes.
Okay, go back to sleep.
I was sleeping. You have him on speakerphone with the door open.
Okay, go back to sleep. Close the door.
Who is that?
Amos. Amos.
That's why he's being so rude. Okay. All right. Can you close the door? I'm gonna close the door. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's under a spell. That's P.O.C. That's Amos. Excuse my language. This is either ignorant people that are monitoring me at 7 in the morning. Remember when she's engaged in what is monitoring by feigning that she's going to sleep and that my voice at about this volume is interrupting her sleep. When she's a witch and she's spiritually attacking, she doesn't sleep. And it's apparent all over her face, the wrinkles and the double chins and the skin color that looks like death. Apart from her spiritual condition. And Amos is on her phone at 7:11 a.m. on what is May 23rd, 2025. Tracy Banks is monitoring 909-890-6170. Her phone is going to be use with regard to prosecuting the people of the state. It is federal stalking, and Amos is intentionally monitoring me. Contrary to the appearance of it, she's on the phone with him. This person's not talking to me. This person's in a conversation with her. Ostensibly ignorant about who's in her house. These are demons and are monitoring together. And the people of the state, regardless of their name, are engaging in what is gang stalking as one entity. These are demons in the same way that strangers that aren't talking to TRACEE are not having a meeting before they engage in pacing in the parking lot as they share in the elements of monitoring in the specific environment. Amos is engaging in federal stalking, and he is doing so with TRACEE Banks with the intent to monitor me. These two pathetic demons are engaging in what is feigning in a conversation about one another, and they're actually focused on me. It's what's so sick about gang stalking families. They hug their kids, they're sitting there talking to them and playing with them, and it's not even about each other. It's what's so sad. Those are demons that are monitoring me, and the specific environment is what's demonstrating that. And TRACEE Banks is monitoring with Amos on the phone, with her bedroom door open while she's pacing around, and I'm in the living room clearly sleeping, and she's going out of her way to engage in the elements of monitoring in such a disruptive manner in order to engage in what is harassment as well. It's currently 7:13 a.m. Amos is, like I stated, he's not only a demon, he's also very highly physically unattractive. But this is what, again, somebody that's over 60 years old who has sex with people in my social circle, and she relies on witchcraft in order to make friends, in order to get sex partners, in order to have people like her. That's what witches resort to, by the way. It's currently 7:13 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, stalking in the parking lot, unit number 56. Gang stalking with her under the fake sun before, engaging in surveillance in the parking lot, just like the demons are doing at 5 p.m. under the fake sun. This demon is using what is dog walking as a means of crossing paths, sharing with crossing path conduct. These demons are monitoring my vagina. License 9CCF825. And license 8FDE449. I documented him under the fake sun with unit number 56 before. Walking a dog is a means of activity creation. This is P.O.C. Asian female with a short bob, license 9 Charlie F825, gang stalking with 2 residents running out of the building containing units 65 through 84, and the demon accessing unit number 56. I've already documented him under the fake sun, monitoring me, and this is a psychopath. He was in the parking lot. Unit 56 gets out of his vehicle. The fake sun is over my head during the 8 o'clock, 9 a.m. hour, and this demon was monitoring me by going back and forth around to the side of the vehicle, just opening and closing the doors, while unit 56 goes to the walking back to the unit, which she's also doing under the 2 p.m. fake sun there. I've got documentation to put every single last one of them in prison. And being repeatedly documented as gang stalking is also a basis of federal prison. The unit is engaging in what is monitoring documentation. Unit 56's dogs barking is activity creation. She does so in concert with LYNDA Reyes under the 8:49 a.m. fake sun. She does so with the people of the state crossing paths, such as Unit 56, monitoring while they're walking downstairs. And she is monitoring with this demon accessing this Jeep. This is a white male monitoring my vagina. This is bathroom monitoring. This is P.O.C. This is a sex offense committed by the entity. While Amos is on the phone monitoring with TRACEE Banks. All right, it is currently 7:20 a.m. That's the P.O.C. inside of the apartment. That's the P.O.C. shared with the demons outside of the apartment. This is all state action where surveillance is underway, and this is sexual violence being documented. Everybody in units 33 through 64 is going to prison for monitoring my vagina, while the city of Ontario keeps it under surveillance. Amos is a violent sex offender, okay? This is somebody that's on the phone with the witch. And that's why I resorted to him in the terms that I did, because I am being as offensive as I can possibly be without stating anything more. But I'm just being frank with those who are stalking, those who are losers, those who are engaged. This is early in the morning. The pattern of conduct, these demons do not ever sleep. And you are entirely a puppet of Satan when you're monitoring with a witch, and your conversation with this witch is not even actually about each other. It's so pathetic. They're all bathroom monitoring together. That's the reality about what Amos is doing, what Amos is focused on, which is also very sick. I would never be on the phone with a man that was obsessed and concerned with another woman's genitalia and then feigning interest in me. These are what the demon possessed do, though. It's bathroom monitoring that TRACEE's engaging in on her communication device with Amos on the phone. That's activity creation. It's federal stalking, and the people of the state are outside stalking in the path. in the specific environment where, the fake sun rises and sets. That was, again, bathroom monitoring while the people of the state are in the parking lot pacing, using those two vehicles, keeping it in the parking lot with the lights on, walking to and from Unit 56, exiting the apartments to get into the vehicle. These are demons who are pacing in the path, and they're monitoring me while I'm inside of the apartment. I go outside and I document them by license plate and in pictures in order to show you the pattern of conduct by the population. They're doing that same exact thing, which is nothing other than pacing and presence and engineer light when the fake sun is still over the same apartment building at 3:37 in the afternoon, where you see 8 Wendy Henry Charlie 403 stalking in the path in the parking lot under a fake sun. When you see at 5 p.m. The entity gang stalking in the parking lot, just like they're doing with J Powers, JPOWERS, driving into the parking lot as an iteration of the P.O.C. Those that are coming onto the grounds, those that are living on the grounds, those that are coming onto the grounds, picking up whatever they are doing with regard to crossing path light activity and engineered light. Engineered light is still present on a cloudy day. That's what's framing Tracy Banks's front door. That's the significance of having the speakerphone and the front and the bedroom door open in order to create activity. But she doesn't just want to monitor. She wants to harass and disrupt my sleep, which is what the witch is always doing, which is amplifying the sound of merely opening the refrigerator door, which it's impossible for me to hear when I'm wearing headphones. But that's a demon that wants attention. You're continuously getting negative attention from somebody that's prosecuting you. They're getting attention for being violent sex offenders. They're all obsessed with my genitalia, and that's why these sex offenders are being prosecuted. It's currently 7:22 a.m. This is P.O.C. on Friday, May 23rd, 2025 at Woodside Senior Apartments. Lynda Reyes is going to federal prison. Dale J. Carter is being prosecuted because domestic terrorism, psychological torture is underway ceaselessly on the property, which is a facilitating venue, which you do not have any constitutionally protected right to have a business that is maliciously used and disguised as a crime scene for the government that's engaged in criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder and kidnapping. Certainly where psychological torture and the perpetual sex offense is ceaselessly underway and uninhibited, even facilitated by your demon-possessed gang stalking employees. I'm going to civilly and criminally prosecute this company. This is P.O.C. All right, it is currently, it's still Friday, May 23rd, 2025, and the people of the state are demonstrating the needfulness for, again, what is mandatory upon exposure and prosecution, documentation of a government engaging what is criminal surveillance and furtherance of murdering and kidnapping the American citizen in particular that is being kept under surveillance, that is being gang stalked, not just being kept under surveillance, as we all are, as you are now no longer ignorant about the specific environment that is supernatural and under no circumstances natural, as it is, as you're looking at my documentation, and then you're aware of what's in the sky space around you, and you're aware of what's covering everything around you, as it also exists at nightfall, and that is engineered light, pursuant to what is monitoring, which is surveillance that the government is maintaining in concert with the civilian population who are also demon-possessed. Those same actors that are demon-possessed engage in monitoring engage in the very real system of gang stalking. Gang stalking is conducted in order to accomplish a murder, in order to accomplish a grand scheme regarding any sort of benefit to be derived from that target individual, such as profiting, theft. I've spoken to what the entity seeks to engage in, which is theft of intellectual property, and also with regard to something as common and as heard of as insurance, having insurance policy on the target individual. And the people of the state are gang stalking with the government. It's not the individual that's collecting on that insurance policy. And yes, the demon-possessed engage in teamwork as they are targeting what is, under my circumstances, as a child of God. Yes, the demon-possessed are very much interested and invested in what is targeting someone that is a believer in Christ Jesus. This is spiritual. Their demonic behavior, the demonic environment is speaking to what you can no longer avoid either, is the spiritual realm. It is inherent to the pattern of conduct, the criminal pattern of conduct that the demon-possessed are going to be prosecuted for. And then it's also associating the demon-possessed like Alan D. WAPNER, who was again threatening my life and safety and is engaging what is psychologically torturing me while I'm documenting the Ontario International Airport gang stalking by engaging in what is the supernatural. That is meaning the intent to create what is noise that is unnatural, impossible to naturally occur. In other words, when it's something that's supernaturally happening, then it's something that's intentionally occurring in furtherance of what is accomplishing surveillance, which is criminal, in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. It's also not a coincidence when you're subject to surveillance in this environment and the the very actor is being documented via my podcast, which is where I'm under surveillance in this apartment and on my communication devices in concert with the demons who are going to prison in this building 49 through 64 and in the adjacent building 33 through 48. And the entity is gang stalking via the Ontario International Airport, which I documented on video yesterday evening under the fake sun that is over this property, which I will remind you about. It is captured on video at 4:57 p.m. and the video ends at 5:02 p.m. And you're looking at crossing a path by a white commercial plane with a blue tail. The entity is crossing path by a commercial plane, which is something that I would not hear. It's impossible for me to hear it inside of the apartment at the elevation, even though the Ontario International Airport has no routes from the Ontario International Airport Terminals 2 and Terminal 4, where they are hovering over the sky space, and it's hovering because I can see the plane, but it's not hovering such that I'm going to hear the plane. So understand what I mean. They are targeting by virtue of their placement in the sky space over this multifamily zone at the time that they are under the fake sun and engineer light, while I am inside of the apartment referring to this demon-possessed Jew, Alan D. Wapner. And the entity is gang stalking me via the Ontario International Airport, and Alan D. Wapner, who is specifically being documented and also is also aware of that, is threatening my life and safety and psychologically torturing me in furtherance of murder and kidnapping via criminal defamation, while I'm documenting him in particular by name, a corrupt public official. And as that is on video in this specific environment, which is Woodside Senior Apartments at 4:57 p.m., I am capturing screenshots in order to remind you about the specific environment that the same demons who are going to federal prison in units 49 through 64 in the adjacent building 33 through 48, who are under the 10:40 a.m. fake sun. And so when you are analyzing the specific environment and you are surrounding a corrupt government that's keeping you under surveillance and doing so through a satanic system in order to falsely depict your character, when demons like TRACEE Banks, speaking as the entity, engaging in what is monitoring via criminal defamation, calling you names, which is audible activity, and calling you names which are, again, getting to defamatory epithets, which is malicious because that demon that is speaking in such a defamatory manner is both monitoring you and is also literally wants to be me and has fraudulently represented herself as me in order to accomplish gang stalking me and falsely depicting my character. But aside from that, this is a psychopath. This is a demon that's monitoring and is also engaging in what is the pattern of conduct as I'm documenting it, and then defaming me based on my documenting the entity, her, the criminals, the demons, very demented pattern of conduct. That's very malicious and psychopathic. Nonetheless, you're analyzing the scene where the entity is gang stalking with the Ontario International Airport, and they're gang stalking with the Ontario International Airport while I'm capturing Alan D. Wapner in screenshots, which you will see documented as I capture the screenshot at what is... I have it on my device. The moment that the entity is amplifying audible activity inside of this apartment pursuant to my documenting this demon-possessed Jew, Alan D. Wapner, at 11:37 a.m. This demon-possessed Jew is a violent sex offender, so I'm not engaging in what is just mere name-calling. I, contrary to the demon-possessed who are gang stalking me, who are obsessively monitoring me, do not engage in making up information about people, especially speaking on things that I don't have the evidence to support. Alan D. Wapner is a violent sex offender monitoring my vagina, not just a demon-possessed Jew. This demon is gang stalking in the Ontario International Airport, is crossing path at 4:57 p.m. while the fake sun is over the same apartment building that it is in images, while I am subject to psychological torture inside of this apartment because all of his co-defendants are gang stalking me with ongoing amplified booming sounding inside of the apartment at the same time that I captured the screenshot, the damning screenshot showing what is a fake sun where the airport is greatly deviating from any sort of plane routes of any airlines from Terminal 2 or Terminal 4, hovering in the sky space above the apartment complex, directly over me amongst amplified plane activity under the fake sun that sits over this apartment building. That's all manner of targeting is what I just described. Targeting by demons who are engaging in surveillance and know every word and syllable that I utter. And they're also sex offenders that know when my panties are down and know when my vagina is exposed, and they're also obsessively consumed with that as well. That is by definition sex offenders. One of these sex offenders is called Alan D. Wapner. He is the president over the gang stalking airport, the Ontario International Airport, which is going to be shut down, closed for business permanently as an exposed domestic terrorist, systematically engaging in what is the pattern of conduct, which I've documented throughout the city of Ontario and in adjacent cities such as Fontana, on the 10 freeway, while the fake sun's over me through TRACEE Banks's window, and the Southwest Airlines is gang stalking while they are hovering in the sky space over. I've documented this for years, and Alan D. Wapner is specifically and personally threatening my life while the Ontario International Airport resorts to engaging in the elements of monitoring as I am in real time documenting him by name and on my podcast where I am kept under surveillance on my devices that I am kept under surveillance on. That is the prosecution, by the way, of a public official that's communicating an impermissible threat as the rules and policies and laws to be enforced against an entity, a corrupt government that's engaging in domestic terrorism shall be prosecuted. Now, while I am the next day reminding you about what it is that I stated yesterday, that Alan D. WAPNER, the Ontario International Airport, LYNDA, REYES, AVANATH Capital Management, the people of the state living at the venue, including those in units 33 through 64, are all going to be prosecuted, and units 33 through 64 are going to prison and mental asylums. And while they are engaging in what is gang stalking and psychological torture with Alan D. WAPNER, and it's that personal, I'm documenting you, and I'm subject to the pattern of conduct in real time while I'm documenting you. That's an act with the intent to obstruct justice that is threatening me, psychologically torturing me, harassing, terrorizing me, while you know that I'm documenting you stalking me on my devices that you are also keeping under surveillance. That is Alan D. WAPNER again, yesterday with the Ontario International Airport, today while I document and remind you about what is not the natural environment from 10 this morning at 11:37 a.m. and what is 4:57 yesterday, where the Ontario International Airport is crossing paths by flying over my head while the fake sun is over me at this same apartment building. And it is from 11:37 to 4:57 p.m., inches apart from the same exact location, but the duration of time is hours apart. That was 11:37 where I took the picture of the fake sun over me, where the entity's filling the apartment with amplified booming pursuant to hostile demons who are keeping me under surveillance, and they still have not learned that they should stop monitoring my vagina. They should stop gang stalking at this apartment complex. They should stop monitoring with the government that's presenting evidence against them, and that government's going to be prosecuted as well. The government is gang stalking vicariously at Woodside. They have not learned that, but these are the psychopaths that pose a national security threat as you are witnessing the exposure of the demon-possessed, the actual mentally ill population, contrary to the propaganda that is put out intentionally regarding mental illness. The demon-possessed, those who are monitoring, those who are practicing this surveillance system unbeknownst to you, they are actually mentally ill. And you are aware of this because their literal criminal pattern of conduct, which I've broken down for you, and that they are engaging in what is corroborating on a ceaseless basis. They're engaging in what I told you that they do. They're doing it in a supernatural means, in a supernatural environment, because you don't have any coincidental behavior in the ways that I've shown you with regard to the elements of monitoring. Especially when I'm going from place to place and these people are all ostensibly strangers, that's supernatural. So is the fake sun over me, it's supernatural. And so is the amplified audible activity, it's supernatural. And so is the light on the ceiling that's moving around, floating through the air in Tracy Banks' apartment, that's supernatural. So are the multiple shadows. When I put my hand up to cast to where light is casting on you, and it's supposed to create a shadow, one shadow that's going to be underneath you, it's supernatural. While that shadow is above my head, that's supernatural. Where my shadow is appearing in the dark and no light is appearing whatsoever, that's supernatural. This is where the demons are monitoring, and so is the Ontario International Airport. And Alan D. WAPNER is again threatening my life and safety while I'm documenting him on my device, and I am subject to what is criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, while the City of Ontario's co-defendant, the people of the state, AVANATH Capital Management, via the people of the state, demons residing at the venue, are gang stalking me. And that is the signature as the simultaneity of amplified audible activity and engineered light in the specific environment as I'm in operation of my device. And I just so happen to be documenting Alan D. WAPNER. That's not a coincidence. And it wasn't a coincidence yesterday under the fake sun that's over the same building that it is at 11:37 a.m. It was over this building at 4:57 p.m. on video. And that fake sun moved as I moved from the front door while it's over the same exact building. And I'm capturing the Ontario International Airport targeting with amplified plane activity. When you can see that plane, but you cannot hear that plane under any natural circumstances. And I do not have any sort of way to predict when they are going to engage in what is stalking me via commercial planes. But what I do have is a documentation speaking to and proving a pattern of conduct of the airport, the Ontario International Airport, stalking me and stalking me with audible activity that's amplified in volume, stalking me under a fake sun that remains over me at this apartment building, and stalking me in the ways in which I've shown, which are demonic, pursuant to monitoring as a government actor while I am engaging what is documenting it. I do have that. The entity is engaging in the specific environment, and Alan D. WAPNER in particular, again, the entity is engaging what is gang stalking and any conspiracy to engage in what is murder and kidnapping via gang stalking. You will find yourself not merely removed from office, you will find yourself before a federal court pleading not guilty, because neurotic demons like Alan D. Wapner will plead not guilty even in the face of the evidence, and there is no lawyer that's going to be able to plead anything or represent him in court. Okay, the entity is engaging what is extraordinary levels of malice, and there is no attorney that's going to explain the environment where monitoring is underway, and there will be no federal court that's going to disregard the evidence establishing the pattern of conduct for stalking by a corrupt government in a malicious manner in order to falsely depict the character of the targeted individual. In other words, never mind the fact that it's demonic what Alan D. Wapner and the Ontario International Airport is engaging in, I'm going to prosecute you with it. It is equally tangible evidence and fully submissible. And it's also impossible that I can manufacture that any person can manufacture it. But I am not the ordinary target individual. I am advocating on that person's behalf, and you shall, sir, under no circumstances ever threaten the life of an American citizen and then walk away unscathed by me personally. I'm going to prosecute you. And the entity is engaging what is threatening me on your behalf while I'm documenting you. The entity is engaging psychologically torturing me on your behalf while I am documenting you. That's how you prosecute any criminal conspiracy to gang stalk someone. By the way, in furtherance of murder and kidnapping, no one is remaining in public office while you're engaging in that criminal pattern of conduct. So you can kiss the position and government goodbye already. You are rapidly approaching a personalized and individualized prosecution, as opposed to one as an entity. And it will be the same treatment of any gang stalking public official. It is currently 11:59 a.m. The entity engaging what is criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. You can see Alan D. Wapner, a demon-possessed Jew, highlighted on the website, the P.O.C. website at thisisthepoc.wordpress.com. The documentation highlights include you looking at the face of this demon-possessed Jew who is gang stalking as a corrupt public official over the gang stalking airport, the Ontario International Airport. That is shown to be engaging what is domestic terrorism and psychological torture. That is the evidence. Where it's also, I want to be clear, the City of Ontario engaged in what is years of federal group stalking, monitoring, and then ongoing years of obstruction of justice, including repeated acts of kidnapping. And they know very well, while they're monitoring me, that they were engaging in kidnapping, because that's all you're doing. All you're doing is stalking in this specific environment where you're monitoring. All you're doing is kidnapping in this specific environment where you're monitoring, including with the police department. And you don't have any jurisdiction. You don't have any authority under the law, contrary to your fictitious exercise of authority under it. When I'm documenting you as a stalker, I'm going to prosecute you like the kidnapper and the stalker that you are. This is why the Ontario International Airport is going to be shut down, while literally gang stalking me with the kidnappers of the Ontario Police Department. But like I said, this is how I can go on and analyzing the criminal conduct that the City of Ontario has already committed, and they are still monitoring me. And you are also monitoring while the demon-possessed, unemployed, elderly citizens with edema, with liver spots, with crusty skin are still gang stalking on this day, May 23rd, 2025, with a body of evidence that they're all going to face collectively and individually. Those fools with ape poo for brains are gang stalking with Alan D. Wapner, and I suggest you get your co-defendants together because you're going to answer. It is currently 12 p.m. This is P.O.C. at Woodside Senior Apartments. Okay, 4:47 p.m. and again right now at 4:48 as I begin documenting Tracy Banks's apartment, where again the sex offender Alan D. Wapner is gang stalking me as well, as he is aware of the fact that I reference him by name. This is speaking to the entity that is gang stalking as a government and gang stalking with the demons who are very enthusiastically preparing themselves for prison and mental asylums, because LYNDA Reyes is going to federal prison while Engineer Light is scanning inside of the apartment where she is gang stalking by place of employment, which is a means of what is surveillance. Engineer Light, which is supernatural. It's as supernatural as the sun being over the apartment building. The demons are doing so pursuant to what is monitoring what I'm doing on the video of the internet. It is pursuant to the same pattern of conduct. The entity is keeping the fake sun, as you saw in video, where the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking by a crossing path flying over my head on video at 4:57 p.m. And the fake sun is over my head this morning, while the light source at 11:37 is over the front. And that's just when I stepped outside. I have the fake sun at 6:33 a.m. over the same building. But again, just capturing what I got on film today. And you're mindful of the late hour that the fake sun was present the day before, meaning I'm capturing the fake sun at 11:37 a.m. and the fake sun is necessarily going to remain over the same building it was when Alan D. Wapner is referenced, and I am being gang stalked, evident through amplified audible activity. And this is pursuant to the same pattern of conduct where I am being gang stalked pursuant to impossible light activity scanning across Tracy Banks' ceiling, where the fake sun is remaining over me over the building where all of the defendants, including the entity that is gang stalking as an apartment complex. These are the demons in units 33 through 64 that are subject to prison, while the entity has what is criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, impossible light activity, amplified audible activity, including which I've documented is occurring through the gang stalkers at the Ontario International Airport, WAPNER in particular, who was a domestic terrorist and who was engaging in what is documented acts of the posing an impermissible threat, while commercial airline planes come and participate in gang stalking me as I am documenting that terrorist in real time. This is also, remember, you are always mindful of the fact that a gang stalker is a violent sex offender. That not only gang stalking while I'm on my communication device, they are monitoring, engaging criminal surveillance with regard to my genitalia. So that is where you're understanding that Alan D. Wapner is a violent sex offender that is aware of and clocking my vagina in the bathroom in the same way that impossible light activity is scanning 3 times now as I'm documenting 4:51 p.m. So 4:47, 4:48 as I press record, and again as I continuously speak regarding LYNDA Reyes going to federal prison based on the impossible light activity that's occurring inside of this apartment. But nonetheless, you're always mindful of the violent sex offender that is monitoring, because that is the inevitable aspect of the pattern of conduct with regard to ceaseless surveillance, and it's an illegitimate interest of a government, of a local government, of a municipality that's speaking to the police department, that's speaking to the use of commercial airline planes associated with the city airport, that's speaking to the unlawful and criminal and abusive use of government functions such as a fire department, such as what the people of the state are inherently engaged in, what is public corruption, while they are gang stalking together. So I want to document that. It's currently 4:52 p.m. I took a picture, and where you see me pointing my finger, it's the same area above the door at nightfall where blue engineered light is flashing. At nightfall, that's where the demons are focusing impossible light that is scanning, like a line of light scanning across the ceiling. It's at the same location where the entity is keeping engineered light. What you saw earlier this morning today, the engineered light that went from being on the ceiling like a short bar of engineered light that was along the ceiling, along that same side of the living room. And then as you can see, I took pictures of that same engineered light on the opposite side of the ceiling. It went toward the bookcase, which is on the west living room wall, and that was a quote unquote new location for that engineered light. I'm speaking to and referring to what are under all circumstances impossible light activity that is stationary. It's stationary as opposed to what is dynamic, meaning which I've captured engineer light cascading across TRACEE Banks's, for example, kitchen cabinets. And as I put my hand up in the air, and the air is just flying through the light is just flying through the air, and I could put my hand through it, and then it cascades off of the cabinets. That's what's cascading across TRACEE Banks's ceiling. So I will refer you to that video. I'll include it in the podcast. That is what's happening along the ceiling where the hallway door is, and it's the same location that I'm pointing to at nightfall, where this same apartment has blue tinted engineered light that fills the apartment all day long as well, in the same way that I'm documenting during the day, where engineered light frames the front door, where it's piercing through the peephole, where the fake sun is remaining over the apartment building, which again is separate and distinct with regard to identifying surveillance, because the fake sun is not the explanation for light that's on the ceiling on the inside of the apartment. The fake sun is evidence of stalking by a whole population and a government, and the engineer light inside of the apartment is relevant to what is surveillance. The fake sun is supposed to be a subconscious acknowledgement of the light that's covering everything. And you're breaking that down because we are all in the specific environment. When you are comparing what I'm documenting today at Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario and what I've been documenting with the fake sun that would be anywhere in Texas, because it's not the same light source. So you're understanding, recognizing surveillance, the crime scene, and in that crime scene, the entity is engaging in the supernatural, and it is including light scanning across the ceiling, which I have already documented not only inside of my place where I'm remaining inside of this apartment in the living room, but across the kitchen cabinets in particular. And I've documented this as the people of the state cross path on the freeway and engineered light scans inside of my vehicle. I've documented this while I am outside of the people of the state drive by, and engineered light scans across the sidewalk and across buildings. And the entity is engaging in what is crossing a path, and engineered light cascades and scans across vehicles. The demon possessed are engaged in what is monitoring, and it's happening inside of an apartment. And it is relevant to the pattern of conduct that's underway while surveillance is ceaselessly underway. The demons are triggered with regard to those that are engaged in surveillance on the venue of the internet. So the particular content that I'm looking at is in reference to psychopaths that are inevitably to be removed from my life. Demons like, for example, Jason Isaac Fields, demons like TRACEE Banks, these two sex partners, an elder and one that is, again, a psychopath that has sex with elders like TRACEE Banks and then is embarrassed about it and tries to bury that in the past, where he's been engaged in a co-conspirator with his sex partner, TRACEE Banks, my mother, who was documented gang stalking me, and he is still gang stalking me with her. This psychopath that's engaging in what is gang stalking me to date, the demons are triggered when I look at content, even suggesting that these type of characters would be removed from my life permanently, which they already are removed. Jason Isaac Fields is not a part of my life. He's never going to be a part of my life. He's documented as a thief, obsessed with me. Obsession with me is also lived out by him by having sex, anal sex, oral sex with my mother. And he's engaging in what is an exceedingly perverted lifestyle. He's a demon who does not know Christ Jesus. He is monitoring me with sex offenders like Alan D. Wapner, the city of Ontario. He is monitoring while Engineer Light is scanning inside of this apartment. He is engaged in monitoring in the middle of the night using witchcraft with regard to sex magic that does not work on me. And by the way, that's to say that Satan himself could not pay me to entertain this demon who will never be a part of my life. It's never going to happen. And while I look at content that the demons are triggered by, so impossible light activity scans across TRACEE Banks' ceiling, but that is relevant to surveillance that's underway on the video of the internet. And I do want to remind you about the specific environment where I am. Again, what I'm doing inside of the apartment is a matter of public information. That's also occurring when my vagina is exposed in the bathroom. It's also relevant when I name domestic terrorists like Alan D. Wapner, and it's pursuant to what is surveillance that's underway on the video of the internet. When I view content regarding psychopaths that are regretful and embarrassed, that are still engaging in what is monitoring me like the demon-possessed do, and they are facing what is an inevitable permanent removal from my life, public exposure, embarrassment, being called out as a demon, being called out as a sex offender, being called out as a nymphomaniac who needs Christ Jesus. That's Jason Isaac Fields. It's not funny, but it is funny how pathetic this demon is when he's resorting to what is masturbating at 2 o'clock in the morning and trying to use witchcraft, which is never going to attract a child of God, somebody who walks with Christ Jesus, somebody who was openly speaking to my profession of Christ, and you are walking with Satan and engaging in criminal activity and resorting to satanic means of harassment, including stalking with impossible light while you're triggered by what it is that I'm viewing online, which is pursuant to federal stalking, criminal conduct. You will never, there's no route to any sort of fellowship or relationship with me. And that's the inevitable demise after having anal sex with my mother, after engaging in what is any sort of sexual relationship with everyone that I know. This person is mentally sick, and his psychopathic personality disorder is, again, like I've stated, evident in his sexual activity. In case you did not know that, it's not people that are just promiscuous. People are promiscuous because they have a Jezebel spirit and because they're very severely mentally sick. That is the condition of Jason Isaac Fields. This person is engaging in what is psychological torture, and this is not pursuant to any legitimate investigation. And while impossible light activity scans inside of this apartment, do not forget who belongs to federal prison, because it's not just the likes of Mike Lorenz of the Ontario Police Department. It's not just Corey Watson with the Ontario Police Department engaging in kidnapping. It's not just Jason Knighton and Jonathan Burnett engaging in kidnapping with the Ontario Police Department. It's not just Eric Corey Spencer and Tommy Allen Banks. It's not just TRACEE Banks that's engaging in kidnapping with the entity. It's also Jason Isaac Fields, who is to date engaging in what is ongoing monitoring, which is criminal government action pursuant to unlawful, that's criminal surveillance that I remain subject to. He is engaging in it, not investigating it. He belongs in federal prison. And that is going to remain the case. The rules do not change for somebody that is as corrupt and unethical and disqualified as this sex offender. And while this demon is monitoring obsessively, like a psychopath who would commit murder, dare you ever reject him, this person is never coming into contact with me because of his mental illness, which is evident through his satanic means of targeting me. It is relevant to the specific environment that remains inside of this apartment, okay? And this is shared with, again, his sex partner, TRACEE Banks. They are two peas in the pod. These two satanic kingdom spouses are both spiritually attacking. They're both gang stalking. They're both liable for what is theft of intellectual property. They're both liable for what is criminal engagement and what is gang stalking in furtherance of murder and kidnapping with the Ontario Police Department, with the City of Ontario, with the demons at Woodside Senior Apartments, and all the demons in units 33 through 64 who belong in federal prison. It is not different with regard to this demon, Jason Isaac Fields, threatening me and terrorizing me with impossible light activity because a psychopath cannot handle that it's a no, and a rapist that would engage in what is seeking to have their way and use witchcraft or physical force, let alone gang stalking me because it's a no. That's a psychopath that's going to permanently be barred from ever coming into contact with me. Anyone listening to any lying words coming out of the mouth of Jason Isaac Fields, you don't belong in my life in the first place. This is a demon. This is somebody that does not know me. That's why he ever engaged in targeting me in the first place. That's why he resorted to listening to the lies of demons like TRACEE Banks, Eric Spencer, everyone that's criminally defaming me. These people are engaging in what is targeting, and now they will regret it as I am exposing them, and they're going to regret it while I prosecute them. Jason Isaac Fields does not know me, nor can any person, none of these demons, speak truthfully regarding who I am as a woman, as a person, as a professional, as an individual. That's why they engaged in what is teaming up with the plot of Satan to take me out, which is a loss. They all lose together, including demons that are in positions of government gang stalking with these losers who are unemployed at Woodside Senior Apartments and impossible light scans inside of this apartment, pursuant to demons being triggered, obsessed with me and triggered by what it is that I'm looking at on the internet, which I am free to view whatever I want to look at on the internet, including content regarding any psychopath that would and should be removed from your life, where they threaten your safety and liberty by targeting you with the demon-possessed and corrupt government, namely Jason Isaac Fields, amongst others. Anyone that is associated with Jason Isaac Fields, that is, those are people that will never have any sort of dealings in my personal life. There will certainly never be any professional dealings in my life. And anything that Jason Isaac Fields has profited from, anything that he and TRACEE Banks stole from me through their perverted and sexually focused relationship where they pray to Satan and engage in perverted things such as tantric sex while they try to summon demons on me, demons that are inferior to the name of Christ Jesus, which are going to come back and haunt them, and they're not coming and have any sort of authority over me. This demon is going to be subject to what is a prosecution and public embarrassment for the things that he has done, for the decisions that he has made, and what he is continuously choosing to do. Anybody that is foolish enough to listen to him, anyone that is foolish enough to allow yourself to be influenced by him, I would advise you, first of all, that you need to seek Christ Jesus, because you are under the advice of a demon-possessed person. And second of all, you are foolish with regard to my clear ability to communicate on my own, and also not only that, not only communicate on my own, but fully represent my own interests. And Jason Isaac Fields, under any circumstances, speaking about me, he is engaging in what is gang stalking me. He's obsessively stalking me, both gang stalking and stalking. That's why he's speaking of me. The only reason why I am addressing this demon, Jason Isaac Fields, is because he's monitoring me. It's not because I'm concerned with Jason Isaac Fields. And it's the same with Alan D. WAPNER. If you were not engaged in what is monitoring my vagina, then your name will not be a part of this documentation. But the Ontario International Airport that's gang stalking is clearly confirming your engagement and focus on monitoring me and engaging in what are documented acts of retaliation while I document you by name. And it's, by the way, spiritually significant with regard to gang stalking, speaking to what is a demon-possessed Jew, as he wears some sort of headdress, as this is supposed to be some sort of religious identity that is under no circumstances legally relevant or having clearly anything to do with his true nature. That's a demon and a sex offender, which is what you all are while you're monitoring my vagina in the bathroom. And anybody listening to people like Jason Isaac Fields, he's a sex offender. He's up in the middle of the night masturbating. He's up in the middle of the night monitoring, worshiping me like a demon, an idolater, somebody that does not know Christ. This is someone that has no future other than being on the opposite end of a case caption when I prosecute him. Okay, forever coming into contact with me. So I want to make sure that that's clear, since the entity wants to have engineer light flying through this apartment while Jason Isaac Fields is monitoring me along with the rest of the entity and is hostile. I want to be clear, that's the conduct of a woman beater. That's the conduct of somebody that will engage in what is taking your life Dare you ever disagree with them or reject them? This is a psychopath. He will never have anything to do with me. He is only a stalker. He is only a psychopath. He is only the sex partner of his grandma age, TRACEE Banks, his kingdom spouse. They're one in Satan. They have covenant before Satan. That's all that Jason Isaac Fields is. He's a life flunky. He's a loser. He is literally somebody that I never should have spoken to in college at San Bernardino Valley College, but that was even orchestrated. He was gang stalking me at San Bernardino Valley College. And the nice, friendly person that I am, I gave this unattractive, bony peon 2 words and attention in response to him. And I regret it to this day. But I will prosecute him like every other sex offender. All right, this demon is engaged in obsessively monitoring. This demon is no cheerleader. This demon is no support. This demon is no investigator. This demon is no provider of any justice. While I remain subject to the P.O.C, it is documenting the U.S. government and the gang stalkers who are the people of the state. Okay, it's currently 5:06 p.m. The entity is keeping engineer light inside of this apartment just like it is at nightfall. After 7 p.m. And while it's still dark and during the 6 a.m. hour, where the fake sun is remaining over this apartment at 6:33 in the morning. And as Alan D. WAPNER's gang stalking Ontario International Airport shows, when they're gang stalking me, that's how important I am to these sex offenders, to target me with planes and helicopters, using all manner of what are the resources of the U.S. government to keep me under surveillance. That's how important I am. That's not a compliment. That's going to be prosecuted as the threat that it is, because it's an illegitimate government interest. Pursuant to what are demons. That's why they're obsessed with me. Somebody who walks with Christ is under no circumstances going to have any sort of association voluntarily with the likes of demons, like those who are in the city of Ontario and like those of Jason Isaac Fields. And the military, if this is the military that's associated with Jason Isaac Fields, you have forfeited any sort of ability to ever have any professional, not that I'm under any circumstances applying, because when I'm documenting gang stalking that I'm subject to, while you're trying to kill me and criminally defame me, that's not an application for a position with the military. It's a cry for what is justice regarding exposing what a government is doing and trying to do it in silence, trying to do it without anybody finding out about it. That boat has long sailed. I'm going to prosecute for the government still monitoring me while I have already exposed it. That's how obsessed the demon-possessed who are in the U.S. government are. And these are the sex offenders monitoring my vagina. And it includes not only Alan D. WAPNER, it includes demons who will never have any position in my life, having anal sex, oral sex, vaginal sex, any sort of relation with TRACEE Banks, because he is a delusional, psychopathic, dysfunctional sex offender, having sex with TRACEE Banks, my mother, and then thinking that there is any day, any season, any moment in time, in reality, that I would have a conversation with him after you tried to kill me, and you're still monitoring me. That's what's relevant to the impossible light activities scranning across TRACEE Banks' living room at 5:06 p.m. again. That's 4 times total. All right, this is relevant to Jason Isaac Fields. This is what the world needs to know. This is relevant to Jason Isaac Fields being embarrassed on the world scene. He's going to eat every defamatory word and epithet that he has ever uttered about me and my character, while this demon is obsessively consumed with what I'm capable of, and he can never do. He could not do it if he had a team of demons like he is monitoring me with help him do it. They can't come up with anything that I've created by myself while they were trying to target me into a grave, an early tomb. That's how pathetic he is. And he's rejected, and the entity this demon resorts to psychological torture, gang stalking. That is nobody's husband. He's not husband material. He doesn't even like women. He has sex with men because of the Jezebel spirit that is on him. I am calling him out because this is a predator. This is somebody that resorts to bullying, and I don't, like I said, trying to threaten me and engaging what is bullying me, that's not going to turn out well for anyone, especially anyone as delusional as Jason Isaac Fields. This person could not be more disqualified from being in my life. That's why I don't talk to any demons now. And the entity that's engaging in what is obsessively monitoring is the entity that's going to be prosecuted. These demons in units 33 through 64, they're going to federal prison. The entity has impossible light activity, which is an established fact, scanning inside of the apartment. That's because they have nothing to live for. They've already given themselves over to inevitable defeat, and that's why they provide evidence, which I document in real time, regarding impossible light activity. And Jason Isaac Fields is being documented in the same way. This is somebody that is engaging in what is monitoring while I'm subject to that same specific environment. This is an entity that is withholding and standing back with regard to justice that is already mine.
that I have fully already established, and there is no question regarding who is liable for what is the allegation of terrorism, targeting. There's no question regarding that. The entity is still targeting. I still remain subject to it because the government itself is still obsessively monitoring, period. This is obsession, period. There is no time date or I would say reasonable question regarding the criminal pattern of conduct that remains underway. Okay, so this is the entity that's doing so, and that impunity is relevant regarding 5:10 p.m. impossible light activity again scanning, and it is scanning in the direction east across the ceiling inside of the living room while I am documenting. So I want to make sure that that is clear. The entity is not engaging in any investigation, and these are the tactics of the demons once they are defeated with evidence, once they are proven to be stalkers, once they're proven to be sex offenders. And I want to be clear: these white men and women, these Latino men and women, Asian men and women, you name a race, you name an age, they're obsessively monitoring the vagina of a black woman. They're stalking a black woman. They are hostile to the defeat by a black woman who is exposing them, and that's the entity that's engaging in what is an act of hostility, because engineer light inside of this apartment equals federal prison for the entity that's monitoring at Woodside Senior Apartment. So there is no victory in that. The entity is engaging in what is an act of hostility, which is material to document, and it's material to document the entity that is engaging in that pattern of conduct. And the entity that you see, the face of Alan D. WAPNER, he is full throttle engaging in this system of terrorism while you are looking at the video evidence of, for example, commercial airline planes having no business flying over and hovering over the sky space of a multifamily zone, doing so in the specific environment, which is caused by amplified audible activity, which planes cannot be heard inside of the apartment while you're flying in the sky space. That's speaking to amplification under what is a supernatural occurrence of a fake sun sitting over the apartment building for 11 hours, and it's as supernatural as light scanning, as I have been speaking on my podcast, which is repeatedly occurring as I'm inside of the apartment. This is the entity that's engaging in that P.O.C. And Alan D. WAPNER, the Ontario City Council, Paul Leon, Michael Gherkin, Mike Lorenz, the demons that are gang stalking, who are all going to be removed from office while I'm exposing what are sex offenders who are obsessively consumed with the genitalia between my legs, with every word that I utter, with the people of the state that are hostile because I'm documenting them by name, by license plate, by image, by address, and also by their criminal pattern of conduct, which is absolutely satanic. So I want to make sure that that is clear. The entity engages in the ongoing acts of what is harassment, stalking, terrorism with impossible light activity, because the mentally ill, which includes Alan D. WAPNER, are engaging in that pattern of conduct with impunity. The entity does so, and you are doing to your own demise. The entity that's engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring is not engaging in a criminal pattern of conduct that is not already proven, not already established, and the entity is engaging in what is at the pattern of conduct with the intent to obstruct justice at this point with regard to harassment, because they are being documented, with regard to psychological torture, because you're being documented, and that is well within a well-documented and supported P.O.C. Remember, the entity that's keeping the fake sun over me is doing the same thing amongst Karen Base and the city of Los Angeles and at Alvarado Gardens, where the entity kept the fake sun rising and setting. That's the criminal pattern of conduct. That's the psychological torture that sex offenders like Alan D. WAPNER are fully engaging in with enthusiasm, while Engineer Light is repeatedly swiping inside of TRACEE Banks' apartment. You see TRACEE Banks walking outside under the fake sun after 12 p.m., and you're mindful of the fake sun being over the same apartment building where the demon possessed of the city of Ontario, that is the Ontario Police Department, are gang stalking while she's engaging in the demonic pattern, stalking in the path with flashing lights. She uses her vehicle to do that. And I took a screenshot of that where you will see the fake sun over my head during the 12 p.m. hour. You will see the fake sun over the same building, inches away from the same position that it was at 12 o'clock in the afternoon with regard to 5:50, where the city of Ontario is gang stalking in helicopter, like I documented on May 16, 2025. This is the duration of time with regard to a fake sun. This is the supernatural occurrence with regard to stalk with impossible light. Remember, on video, you're seeing my shadow appearing inside of the apartment where the Ontario police are gang stalking by helicopter. This is the same apartment where the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking by planes. This is the same apartment where the entity is gang stalking with the possible light activity, and doing so while the demon possessed are hostile to their being exposed by name. And every government head all the demons, in other words, at the heads of these corrupt departments, and including government actors like Jason Isaac Fields, are going to be removed from those positions. These are terrorists. These are raging sex offenders. These are psychopaths that are a threat to the public while they're engaging in this system amongst the ordinary targeted individual that lacks the evidence and is subject to what are kidnapping. And so this is what's relevant while the entity is again at 5:14 p.m. impossible light activity scanning across Tracy Banks' ceiling. So the entity is doing so, and you are mindful of what it is that I published today. The entity is keeping the fake sun, again, Tracy Banks in the apartment, in the parking lot this afternoon with the hazard lights. She's walking back in the apartment with regard to pacing. She's doing so with regard to light activity creation. She's doing so at the apartment complex where the fake sun is already over me when I'm walking out documenting the people of the state. In the not only in the afternoon but earlier in the morning before 12 p.m. and well after 12 p.m. like I'm referencing on May 16, 2025 with the Ontario International Airport. So let me give you a timestamp. With regard to the screenshot that I want you to refer to, when you are mindful of the city of Ontario that is gang stalking with the elderly in units 33 through 64, where inside of the apartment engineer light is, again, like I'm documenting, repeatedly scanning east and west across Tracy Banks' ceiling as a means of harassment and psychological torture, where Alan D. Wapner, where Michael Renz, where Michael Gherkin, where the Paul Leon, the demons that are in position in the city of Ontario are very heavily documented terrorists. Tracy Banks is gang stalking at 12:20 p.m. The fake sun is over my head. Today's May 23rd. And you will see her stalking in the path. That's what that's identified as while she is monitoring. That's what that stalking is revealing. Monitoring is always underway with regard to what is stalking. You are stalking where you live. You're stalking where you work. This is why LYNDA Reyes is going to prison. The entity is doing so with regard to the specific environment. The fake sun is over the same apartment building where the Ontario Police Department on May 16th in the specific environment where the sun could not possibly be a product of the natural environment, where number one, engineer light is scanning inside of this apartment where the Ontario Police is identified as stalking, targeting me specifically with Tracy Banks, who was in the same parking lot on May 16th, 2025 at 5:40 p.m. engaging in what is stalking with light in the path. And that fake sun that's over the same apartment over me is how you're understanding the connection between gang stalking by the city of Ontario, namely what is the Ontario Police Department on video on May 16th at 5:40, and Tracy Banks stalking in the path with the city of Ontario in the parking lot with a flashing form of light activity under the fake sun, as you can see it over my head at 12:20, over my head at her apartment front door. Now, at 5:40, that is, again, 5 hours later, that's speaking to the specific environment. And so that's what I want to remind you of. The entity having 7 times, it's currently 5:17 p.m., so 7 times total. Engineer light is scanning across Tracy Banks' ceiling, and I'm going to include the video where you will see impossible light activity cascading inside of it, flying through the air, just like I'm documenting now. I will show you a video because I want you to look at that, and you're going to see it right underneath Alan D. Wapner's face. This is a demon-possessed Jew who was gang stalking me. This is somebody that is gang stalking, and this documentation of psychological torture is relevant to the tactics of demons, and these demons are being prosecuted as terrorists, and they're also violent sex offenders. Don't ever forget that it is this black woman's vagina that Alan D. Wapner is monitoring. He is stalking me in the bathroom while the government is using commercial planes, and while the government is using helicopters, and while the government is using engineered light inside of this apartment. Because I'm documenting Alan D. Wapner, he's going to be prosecuted for that. This is the entity that's gang stalking and engaging in what is terrorism, psychological torture via impossible light and active retaliation while Alan D. Wapner is being documented. This is the entity that's engaging in what is stalking with amplified plane activity because I'm documenting Alan D. Wapner. This is the entity that is gang stalking with the people of the state while I am documenting Alan D. Wapner via impossible audible activity, like I documented this afternoon at 11:37 when I'm documenting Alan D. Wapner in a screenshot on my device. Now, the entity having impossible light activity scanning inside of this apartment, yes, it is relevant to demons like Jason Isaac Fields who cannot handle being rejected. Jason Isaac Fields represents the same demonic entity. So you're just understanding what the state of California is doing. That's what the city of Ontario represents. The U.S. government is monitoring throughout the country. That's what the specific environment lets you know wherever you are at in this country. Alan D. Wapner, this aged, demon-possessed Jew, his face is detailed in the description box of this podcast. You will see the entity gang stalking by commercial plane, which is in the evening yesterday at after 4 p.m. 4:50 p.m. specifically, where you will see what is the entity gang stalking me by commercial planes, and then you're mindful of the fake sun being over my head at 11:37 in the morning today at the same apartment. At 12:20 in the afternoon at the same apartment, where TRACEE Banks is reminding you about what she's doing under the same circumstances with the city of Ontario. And when I'm documenting 11:37 in the morning with the fake sun over my head, this is what L&D WAPNER is committing by gang stalking the co-defendants, demons crawling into commercial planes and terrorizing me because I'm documenting the president of the airport, which is gang stalking with commercial planes at this venue under the fake sun. And it's the same circumstances under that fake sun over the same apartment building. So I'm getting to that pattern of conduct where the city of Ontario is engaging in documented acts of what is very foolish because I'm documenting it in real time. And it's not working with regard to what the ordinary target individual is subject to. The entity engages in what is terrorism via impossible light, but the target individual has no evidence about what it is that they're speaking of. So in other words, I am documenting it, and this is supposed to be the evidence that's going to be used to criminally defame someone. This is evidence that's going to be used to prosecute a lot of people and remove demons like Alan D. Wapner, Mike Lorenz, Paul Leon, and the Michael Gherkin from the positions that they currently hold. And it is directly tailored to what is my documentation, identifying them by name specifically, and my documenting acts of the supernatural, which I will remind you about. I will include it in the description box of this podcast because I want everybody to see it. You can see it on YouTube. I will include it in the video with regard to your ability to click on that video in order to see the impossible light activity that's scanning 7 times inside of this apartment. And it's relevant to what is, again, demons who are of the same entity, Jason Isaac Fields and the city of Ontario, Alan D. Wapner, engaging what is an act of retaliation while I identify the demon Alan D. Wapner, engaging what is terrorism and psychological torture based on the content that I'm viewing online. The entity is engaging what is focusing on me altogether, and it's very much triggered by everything that I say, everything that I expose, and everything that I document, in other words. So I want to make sure that I'm documenting that. It's currently 5:21 p.m. and 8 times impossible light scanning across the ceiling. The entity is doing this where the fake sun is rising at 6:33 at Woodside Senior Apartments over building 33, and over the building that I'm in. I'm in unit 51, encompassing units 49 through 64 at 6:33 in the morning, and also where you're seeing the Ontario Police gang stalking under the 5:40 p.m. fake sun, but you've seen it as late as 6:13 p.m. And that is the sunrise and the sunset where I am inside of the apartment, and that is the evidence already establishing that the entity is stalking with light. Stalking with light is demonic. The demon possessed, who are identified by name, that includes Alan D. Wapner, engage criminal acts of criminal acts of obstruction of justice, such as retaliation, is committed by a demonic entity when you are subject to supernatural occurrences such as stalking with impossible light, such as stalking with amplified audible activity, such as stalking with sensational activity. This is how it's committed by an entity. So when you're documenting a sex offender such as Alan D. Wapner, the entity will engage in what is terrorizing you with impossible light activity. And that's going to be attributed to that specific demon because the entity is specifically targeting one person, everything that that person is doing. And it's also going toward the prosecution of that person that is also communicating a threat to you, and as an entity is targeting you as one. So in the same way that the entity is engaging in what is targeting with helicopter activity, as I document the Ontario Police Department, as I document, for example, Jason Knighton engaging in kidnapping, Jonathan Burnett engaging in kidnapping, Corey Watson engaging in kidnapping, the entity that's engaging in what is the pattern of conduct of gang stalking as a police department, in other words, and then the entity engages in what is the elements of monitoring in real time by helicopter. That's the entity that is communicating a very personalized threat. Because it's in the specific environment that is shown to be targeting me in particular, where everybody is stalking me together, that's monitoring. The entity is doing the same thing when I document Alan D. Wapner, and you're understanding the entity that is targeting an American citizen, while you are then documenting, you document by name, that person who is a part of that entity is going to be prosecuted, not as a public official merely to be removed from office, but as a public official who will be personally prosecuted. This is what the entity is doing when engineered light, which is psychologically harmful, and it's also speaking to the impunity of this domestic terrorist, Alan D. Wapner, while he is being specifically identified because the Ontario International Airport is specifically targeting me while gang stalking over the senior citizen complex with amplified noise under the fake sun amongst impossible light activity. The entity is doing so 8 times throughout this podcast as I'm capturing this excerpt of audible activity, of audible documentation regarding the activity that's being created inside of this apartment. It is relevant to the mental illness of not only the people of the state, but you need to know that Alan D. Wapner is a severely mentally ill psychopath. His mental illness is exhibited while the demons target with in a demented manner, such as impossible light activity. Alan D. Wapner's mental illness is exhibited through the psychopathic pattern, the highly malicious and demented and corrupt pattern of practice of stalking someone using commercial planes. And as a president of that Ontario International Airport, he is fully apprised of and aware of every dollar that is going toward domestic terrorism. That's what the public needs to know, that Alan D. Wapner is severely mentally ill. This is a psychopath while I'm being targeted with impossible light activity as I reference his name. This is how you were able to understand and identify. That's how detailed the pattern of conduct is, and that's how informative the pattern of conduct is with regard to the demon-possessed who are identified by name. Alan D. Wapner's mental illness, Alan D. Wapner's proclivity towards sexual violence, Alan D. Wapner's obsession with me, Alan D. Wapner's engagement in gang stalking me, and also stalking through commercial airline planes. Demon-possessed pilots who get in planes, gang stalking me at this apartment complex in this specific environment, which is very detailed, and that is evidence proving the fact that the demons are targeting me with the Ontario International Airport in real time as I document Alan D. Wapner, and doing so while I am publishing evidence and the entity is engaging with a pattern of conduct. I have years of documentation of the same exact thing. The demons that are exceedingly hostile engage in what is an ongoing campaign. I will get the demons flying in helicopter for example, 47 minutes like the LAPD do as an act of retaliation because I document them. This is what an entity is doing today inside of TRACEE Banks' apartment with impossible light activity, which is not anonymously occurring. It's relevant to the mental health of Alan D. Wapner. It's relevant to the criminal activity of Alan D. Wapner. It's relevant to the criminal acts of obstruction of justice committed by Alan D. Wapner, who is targeting me based on the conduct of within the pattern of conduct of use of commercial planes, stalking me in the specific environment as I document him via podcast, which is captured on May 22nd, 2025. I'm publishing his face. I'm reminding you about what was happening at 5:47 p.m. yesterday, and what's happening under the fake sun this morning, which is speaking to gang stalking by the Ontario International Airport, where that duration of time is clearly highlighted, and I include what is the screenshot so you could see his face, so you could see his name, so you could see his position. And inside of this apartment where the entity engages in a pattern of criminal acts of retaliation, the entity is engaging in what is a very long drawn out of a documented campaign of retaliation that's going right under the name of the psychopath, the violent sex offender who is Alan D. Wapner, who I will prosecute him for. There is no defamation when the truth, the speech that I am documenting is the truth about his criminal activity and his disqualification for being in office and his corrupt practices as a not a police officer, but as a president over the Ontario International Airport. I dare Alan D. Wapner, because I'm going to prosecute him. I'm prosecuting him and the rest of the entity, including while impossible light activity. I want to make sure I specify this. Look at you will see Alan D. Wapner, gang stalker, and the link where you will see the fake sun and the entity gang stalking under the fake sun, the duration of time analysis, what you'll see in that screenshot. And then you'll see gang stalker, and you'll see his face. You will see the fake sun, and you will see the Ontario International Airport gang stalking under that 5 p.m. fake sun. And you're mindful of what is the 11:37 a.m. fake sun. You're going to look at another edition, which I will add in order to remind you about this sex offender, this psychopath, this corrupt public official, Alan D. Wapner, who is engaging in what is document. It's very specific when the entity is monitoring. This is directly relevant to documentation of the public official, the sex offender, the psychopath, Alan D. Wapner. That's why the entity has engineer light scanning 9 times across TRACEE Banks' ceiling as I am documenting him in particular. And as I document him in particular, it's a documentation of the state. But I want to be clear, the entity wants to engage in what is terrorism. This is speaking to Alan D. Wapner's public exposure and what is the basis of a prosecution, not just as a public a public official who's to be removed from office, but speaking to his mental illness. As you look at the video that I'm going to add as a link underneath this named terrorist, this named sex offender, Alan D. Wapner, a demon-possessed Jew. If you did not know that such oxymorons are real, you can look at the criminal activity committed by the Ontario International Airport under the corrupt leadership, the dangerous leadership of Alan D. Wapner. He's a demon, and he's a demon that's associated with the tradition of Jews. Okay? Being a Jew does not mean that you are saved, that you are of God whatsoever. It's merely a tradition. It's merely a religion regarding what is an identity. You are not saved. You are not necessarily of God whatsoever because you identify traditionally as a Jewish person, putting something on your head, which doesn't even necessarily mean that he's Jewish, by the way, in addition to that. But what I will tell you, he is not a man of God. He's a demon. And he is specifically targeting me because I identified him by name. And the entity having impossible light activity is criminal activity that is not anonymous. It's relevant to everything that I'm documenting, and it is going toward what are criminal acts of obstruction of justice, retaliation, which there is a body of evidence speaking to the city of Ontario, speaking to the public entity itself that always engages in that, because they are monitoring, because they're engaged in federal stalking under Title 18, and because they are engaging what is exhibiting the inability to control themselves as the demons that they are. This is the spirit of Satan operating over an entity, and these demons manifest, and demons manifest amongst impossible light, especially as I named them, i.e. Alan D. Wapner. And this impossible light activity is going to be added right under as number 3 in the description box of the podcast, and I'm specifically naming it because I want the world to look at it. Look at his face, look at his position, because he's going to be removed from it, and he will be prosecuted for engaging what are ongoing documented acts of retaliation against an American citizen that is documenting him by name, because he is targeting me, and my ability to prove it in evidence is going to be not merely his removal, but it's going to be, again, like every other demon-possessed gang stalker, both a diagnosis and a prosecution. Stalking with impossible light activity is going toward the mental illness of the entity. The impossible light activity is an established fact. So you are hurting yourself. Again, Alan D. Wapner. I don't have any problem calling out demons. This is exactly what is the purpose of the P.O.C. You are a sex offender, and you're obsessively stalking somebody that you should have left alone a very long time ago. Impossible light activity scanning inside of this apartment while you are listening to every word that I utter. Every time I speak your name, you are aware of it, sir, and you're a violent sex offender. So I want you to listen to that as well. I'm going to prosecute the Ontario International Airport that's going to cease to exist, because it's engaging in what is domestic terrorism. You have demons flying planes who are posing threats to the lives of American citizens. Even these demons that board planes have a right to not have their life threatened by demons that are flying them. By having a whole systematic means of domestic terrorism. Every airline engaging in what is federal stalking and gang stalking. That's what's proven while impossible light is flying inside of this apartment 9 times in total. Because demons are hostile to being identified, and because demons like Jason Nancy-Fields are also hostile to being rejected. But nevertheless, remember, this is the same entity. Everything that I am speaking to, everything that I am documenting, everything that I publish, the entity is focused on that. This is relevant to the prosecution of Jason Nancy-Fields. It's relevant to the prosecution of what is the government at large. It's relevant to the demons that are going to prison. LYNDA Reyes is going to prison. I don't make up anything about stalking me in helicopters, stalking me in airplanes, stalking me with impossible light activity. And so I will attach that video so that you can remind yourself about why Alan D. Wapner is being removed from office, about the details about him being a demon-possessed Jew, and about him monitoring this black woman's vagina and being mad because I'm exposing him by name for it, as opposed to being a sane individual who ceases engaging in that. Like anybody that has a conscience. No, a demon that lacks a conscience, that engages in psychopathic behavior, engages in more documented criminal conduct and acts of aggression, such as stalking me with impossible light inside of this apartment. It is currently, again, where impossible light scans 5:32 p.m. on May 23rd, 2025. So the entity is doing so in the specific environment. You're going to take a look at that impossible light activity. It's directly relevant to the terrorist Alan D. Wapner, who is a corrupt government actor, also heavily gang stalking via Omnitrans, which is years of documentation of targeting in the specific environment on that bus, replete with impossible light activity, just like what's flying inside of this apartment right now. It's happening on the buses, which Alan D. Wapner is also a corrupt public official, where Omnitrans is a gang stalker as well, proven through the maintenance of the fake sun over me while I'm on those buses, no matter what route, no matter what time of day, no matter what direction. Also at nightfall, also while the entity is gang stalking me, while the bus route 61 in particular goes through what is the Ontario International Airport, and the fake sun is over me at the Ontario International Airport, where the airport is gang stalking by venue, and the demons at the airport are gang stalking me by flying over this venue, targeting me, and also targeting me while I document them, and the demons are engaging with a stalk with the possible light activity. That's how the entity is also doing so, while the elements of monitoring are at play and you're documenting the demons. In the same way, when you go to the facilitating venue of the airport where Alan D. Wapner is stationed, if you will, and you're being targeted there. It's the same thing while I'm documenting you by name and I'm being targeted in wherever location that I'm at, because it's one entity. This is how an entity is engaging what is hurting its own interests, and I will be prosecuting based on the ongoing documented acts of retaliation. And in speaking to the mental illness, this is also a basis of disqualifying these demons, these domestic terrorists, because Michael Gherkin, Paul Leon, Mike Lorenz, Alan D. Wapner, these are mentally ill psychopaths, and they're violent sex offenders, and they are engaging in what is the egregious sex offense and act of terrorism of gang stalking, and it is proven by the city of Ontario. I want to be clear, years of documentation, which is proving to the rest of the country that you are in a specific environment as well. And they are also a template for how the demon-possessed that are also in government are targeting American citizens, which is also the evidence which is going to support why the government shall not keep any American citizen against their will when they are engaging in what is the pattern of conduct and then seeking to criminally defame someone. The city of Ontario, demons like Alan D. WAPNER, demons like Paul Leon, who are, again, sword demons because they're being documented, because they're being identified, and they're going to be removed from position, where there's a body of evidence proving that every single area in the city of Ontario is engaging in domestic terrorism, systematic terrorism through the city of Ontario. The airport's a gang stalker, the police department's a gang stalker, the fire department's a gang stalker. The employees that are emptying the garbage of the city of Ontario are gang stalkers. They're all being removed from position. And that's directly relevant to engineer light flying across the ceiling inside of this apartment, where the fake sun remains over this apartment 11 hours in the day, and the demons are gang stalking by commercial airline planes and helicopters over me at this apartment building while I expose them by name, by department, by position. It is currently, again, 5:35 p.m. The entity is keeping the fake sun and the engineer light over this apartment, and I want you to make sure that you take a look at the video documentation so you can see what the engineer light that is ongoing while I document is remaining inside of this apartment. It is currently, again, 5:35 p.m. and this is P.O.C. Alan D. WAPNER, again, this is the current president over the Ontario International Airport, and the entity is maintaining impossible light activity. I'm going to go ahead and capture the fake sun where impossible light is happening inside of this apartment as well. Gang stalker on the east side at the pole, under the fake sun. That's a means of surveillance, stalking in the path, and you know that they're all stalking because this is where the entity has Alan D. WAPNER's Ontario International Airport commercial planes, the airlines targeting me, which is proven through that specific environment. It's also proven while engineer light flies inside of this apartment, which is the ongoing, long documented P.O.C. Now that I'm documenting Alan D. WAPNER by name and position, the entity targeting with this impossible light activity for the last 35 minutes. It is currently, again, 5:36 p.m. This is P.O.C. Make sure that you look at that video because it's going to be used to remove public officials from office, where sex offenders are monitoring me in the bathroom while they are monitoring and also engaging what are documented in satanic acts of retaliation pursuant to monitoring because they know that they're being documented. That's relevant to their also removal and disqualification from office. It is, again, 5:36 p.m. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, what you will see captured in screenshots is a reminder about what I'm documenting when the people of the state who are gang stalking with corrupt government actors such as the City of Ontario, who is gang stalking through the airport, the Ontario International Airport, in that specific environment where that fake sun is remaining over me, like I'm documenting on literally as I've been documenting, but as of late on video, I captured the latest video of planes within the pattern of conduct. But as I'm documenting the pattern of conduct, all I'm doing is showing you the pattern of conduct as it's underway, and all the demon-possessed do is engage in the same P.O.C. over and over again, different methods. Audible activity of helicopter activity, audible activity using plane activity, audible activity using some heavy-footed demon in Unit 55, which is all of that is impossible audible activity. The entity is amplifying everything. Amplification is demonic. Meaning no matter how far up in the sky, no matter how many miles away the helicopter, no matter how impossible it is to cause the ceiling and the walls to crack while an elderly woman is walking inside of the unit at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, 10:55 at night, it's not going to cause the ceiling to crack. It's also not going to be an interference with quiet enjoyment. These people are engaging what is amplified audible activity. That's demonic, and it's demonic when you can hear the helicopter and it's miles away. That's impossible audible activity. It's impossible audible activity when the plane is in the sky space, even though Terminal 2 and Terminal 4 are no explanation for why Ontario International Airport has any planes flying over the senior citizen complex at any point at all. When they are taking off from Terminal 2, Terminal 4, and you are immediately taking off in a sharp incline, when you are taking off, I've been on plenty of planes, lived across the country. That is how planes take off, and they don't hover in the sky space, take a U-turn over a particular neighborhood and then continuously incline up in a higher elevation. They are shooting straight up from the airport, and the entity is clearly targeting by virtue of being placed over Woodside Senior Apartments. They are also doing so pursuant to what is audible activity that's impossible to hear, because even at the elevation where you are clearly seeing evidence of targeting by being in the sky space, it's also evidence of targeting because the plane activity, which is not going to be heard also. But it's not just heard, it's amplified in volume. The demons are doing this when they are engaging what is monitoring. Monitoring is demonic. Monitoring is readily identified and very obvious in an environment where a fake sun, because it's not the natural sun that would be over the same position that it is right now at 5:37 when I just took pictures of it, as it was this morning when I'm documenting the demon-possessed gang stalking, just like the Ontario International Airport is, using commercial planes as I identify sex offenders and domestic terrorists and predators. This is psychopaths like Alan D. Wapner. At 10:40 a.m., the fake sun is in the same position that it is right now at 5:37. That is over the same building, by the way, units 49 through 64. You will see a screenshot that I'm going to upload to the Google Drive, and at the top of that screenshot, you will see the timestamp 2025-05-23 underscore 10:40 and 46 seconds. That's when I am walking into the parking lot, documenting the demon-possessed that are gang stalking by coming onto the grounds. This is where AVANATH is going to be prosecuted because the population is sharing in the elements of monitoring. When I'm walking outside, the entity is maintaining aerial surveillance, which the Ontario International Airport is demonstrating, and the entity is also engaging in what is surveillance in the sky space as well as on the grounds. So driving by, walking by, living around traffic, the 7-Eleven across the street, as they're going to work at 7-Eleven, they're stalking in the path. This is massive surveillance. But with regard to, as I'm opening the front door at 10:39 in the morning today, and I walk outside of Unit 51 where the fake sun is over my head, in the same manner that it is when TRACEE Banks is in the parking lot 2 hours later and she is walking toward her vehicle with her hazard lights on, you can claim it's relevant. It's irrelevant with regard to why they're always saying, oh, I forgot something, I had to go back. It doesn't matter. The pattern of conduct is that the entities the entity that is demonic is stalking with the method of flashing light. They're doing it in the readily identifiable environment where the fake sun never leaves. The fake sun sits there all day. It's engineered light that's identifying, in other words, the intent, the malice, the purpose, the pattern that is shared by a population, and they're all demons. And the pattern of conduct is underway where the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking while the fake sun is over me while I'm walking from the same unit, Unit 51, yesterday afternoon after I'm identifying Alan D. Wapner specifically. Now, I'm reminding you while I'm inside of this apartment, and 10 times total, while I'm capturing the excerpt that you just listened to moments ago. Well, I'm literally just capturing. I stepped outside, took those pictures, and I walked back outside because I want to give you a narrative, because you're going to look at the video that I'm going to include under the gang stalker Alan D. Wapner's name. I don't engage in any sort of a hyperbolic speech or exaggerating, and nor am I untruthful in anything that I'm documenting. If these public officials were not engaged in the pattern of conduct, then they would not be documented. And by the way, the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct that is citywide. That's why my documentation also shows and proves any city that I go to, the entity is engaging in what is keeping a fake sun over me, because there is no sun that's over what is the Arcadia Motel 6 and its zenith in the middle of the day, like it is when I'm at TRACEE Banks' apartment today, and she is stalking in the path with flashing lights while the fake sun is over me, and I'm walking out at 5:37 and it is still over the same building in the same position that it was at 10:40 in the morning when I walked out of the same apartment to document the demons that were gang stalking in the apartment with license 5EZM554. I walked out and I documented, and the fake sun is in the same position at 10:40 a.m. that it is at 5:37 p.m. after I'm capturing via podcast, because my real-time recitation of the specific environment is as probative and as relevant as my capturing video of it. So the entity has engineered light 10 times scanning across TRACEE Banks' living room, and it's relevant to the evidence that I'm documenting about Alan D. Wapner, because this is the demon, the demonic pattern of conduct. As I document the demons gang stalking by police, the police engage in more aggressive and psychopathic and threatening behavior. As I document the people of the state, the police actually, and the entity gang stalks with the Ontario International Airport as well, the entity engages in the pattern of conduct, but the entity uses the police mostly I was going to say police in chief, but the police chiefly with regard to threatening, and that's the highest threat that by the entity that gang stalks you with the police. This is the pattern of conduct of engaging what is, first of all, surveillance, and then monitoring that evidence, and then engaging in what is monitoring with the intent to obstruct justice. That is the audible activities, no longer the demon possessed in Unit 55, amplifying, walking around in a circle in the living room under the fake sun that sits over the building for 11 hours while engineer light sits inside of the apartment. The audible activity escalates to what is helicopter activity, while the entity is being documented for engaging in such psychological torture and monitoring behavior pursuant to criminal surveillance. This is the pattern of conduct. While I'm documenting Alan D. WAPNER, the fake sun is remaining over me, and while I am remaining inside of this apartment where the entity is inevitably documented and surrounded with facts proving surveillance inside of this apartment as I recite it in real time, and the entity is engaging in it, I am not the target individual where the entity will, under any circumstances, successfully assert that I'm imagining, that I am hallucinating, that I'm lying, because the pattern of conduct where I have multiple, I would say, both my website, the P.O.C. website, and what is the YouTube channel, I have thousands of videos, a whole playlist with literally thousands of videos establishing stalking with light, impossible light activity as a fact. And not only that, I have so much, I don't need to make up any additional facts. In addition, I don't need to prosecute individually any other public officials, such as this demon-possessed Jew, Alan D. WAPNER, but I will enforce my rights. I'm not shy in that regard whatsoever. And if you are engaging in what is an unlawful threat, you're already doing so as a gang stalking public official. Because in case you did not understand that, when the people of the state in that city are gang stalking, they're gang stalking with that government in that city. That's what the gang stalking and unintelligent police departments have proven as I go from city to city and county to county, and they're gang stalking me with the identified hallmark of using helicopters in that specific environment. It's not just the tendency to be around me and fly over me and around me in helicopters. It's that the entity engages in what is amplification of helicopters under a fake sun and amongst impossible light activity. Those are demons that are a part of corrupt governments that are targeting from city to city and county to county. And this is what Alan D. WAPNER is a part of, the city of Ontario, under the fake sun. And as I document him, as I show his face, as his, in other words, as his mug is on what is my documentation for you to see him and identify this terrorist by name, by position, by identity, this demon is engaging in what is an act committed by the entity, targeting with impossible light inside of the same apartment, and where you are seeing the evidence of a fake sun from 1040 to 537 at the same exact location. Let's count the hours together. 1040 to 537, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 7 hours at the same exact location. When I am walking from the parking lot back to TRACEE Banks's apartment, in betwixt the buildings of units 33 through 48 and building encompassing 49 through 64, the fake sun is in the same position it is right now at 5:37 p.m. at 10:40 a.m. That is where the entity is inside of this apartment, the apartment that is where I am occupying, and my documentation consists of documenting terrorists such as Alan D. WAPNER, so you can see his image, so you can identify him by title, which is gang stalker, which is demon-possessed Jew, who is engaging in what is the sex offense of federal group stalking and monitoring this black woman's vagina. And terrorism via impossible light, while I document you, is going to result in what is a customized federal prosecution with your name written all over it, as opposed to being removed from office. Because that's what's going to happen by any gang stalking government, which is the city of Ontario that has a whole bunch of sex offenders and demons in office. Mike Lorenz, Michael Gherkin, what is Paul Leon, Alan D. WAPNER. Gang stalking with the demons who are enthusiastically headed straight for prison and mental asylums, while the demon in Unit 55 under the 4 p.m. fake sun is gang stalking under that 10:40 a.m. fake sun, which you will also see in the screenshot. Remember the Ontario Police gang stalking on May 16, 2025, the 10:54 a.m. fake sun over my fake head, over the top of my head, while the demon in Unit 55 who was gang stalking by obsessively crossing path as I opened the front door yesterday afternoon, she's gang stalking as well, like she is right now inside of the apartment. She's going straight to a mental asylum. But she is gang stalking right now, and she's gang stalking in a readily identifiable environment, while I give you screenshots showing her under the fake sun, gang stalking by residents, gang stalking with the Ontario International Airport, where she is under that fake sun, which is at 4 o'clock in the evening, and she is on that same sidewalk gang stalking While the entity in Unit 55, where the Ontario Police Department are gang stalking me at 10:54 a.m., that's duration of time speaking to the supernatural. It's as supernatural and factual. Supernatural and factual. As the demons gang stalking with impossible light activity and Alan D. Wapner's criminal engagement, Alan D. Wapner's mental illness, Alan D. Wapner's malice, Alan D. Wapner's disqualification from public office, from a position having anything to do with an airport where you are documented as a terrorist, when you're going to be prosecuted as a corrupt public official by engagement in domestic terrorism. You're going to be removed from anything having to do with an airport. The demons are engaging what is terrorism with impossible light activity, 10 times scanning across Tracy Banks' ceiling. And now that I have the living room light on, understand what the demons are doing. While I don't have the living room light on, engineer light scanning across the ceiling 10 times, going east and west across the ceiling. Now that I have the light on, the demon engaging the supernatural of amplified audible activity under the guise of license 5WB715. Which is the guise of amplified audible activity. This is demonic, and it's audible activity and engineer light under the fake sun that's over the same building that it was this morning that I documented at 10:39 a.m. Where a population, and that population includes the corrupt government, demons that are flying commercial planes that are targeting little old me, that are very much bothered and triggered by my documentation, not because they're innocent, but because they are indeed engaging in surveillance, because they are demons, because they are monitoring my vagina, because they are obsessively consumed with me, because they are demons. The demons are obsessed with me. The demons are aware of my identity in the spirit because I walk with Christ. Now, my calling out their sexually egregious conduct, that's their behavior. And I'm not going to mince words about the sexual violence of predators because you need to hear it in the raw way that they committed. That's why you hear that. The entity engaging in sexual violence, yeah, there's nothing nice to hear about it. And the demons are psychopaths that are hostile to it being exposed, but you're doing it. You like keeping my genitalia under surveillance. You just don't like me telling everybody that. You don't want me prosecuting you for it. Like every other delusional psychopath, they're going to have labels, appropriate labels for being sex offenders, appropriate labels as domestic terrorists, gang stalking mayors, gang stalking presidents over corrupt gang stalking airports, gang stalking fire chiefs, gang stalking police chiefs, gang stalking as a population, gang stalking elderly people who are all engaging in what is stalking in violation of the Violence Against Women Act, and they're all gang stalking with the government on both accounts. They're all losing their housing. Okay, and the entity that's engaging in amplified audible activity to supplement, because I have the lights on, so understand the impossible light activity that was scanning 10 times across the ceiling, engaging in what is the same affect, if you will, while now having what is amplified audible activity. That's the purpose, psychological torture. Alan D. Wapner is being documented for it. So I'm going to include, like I said, I'm going to include the video because I want you to see what the entity was scanning across Tracy Banks' ceiling 10 times. As I am documenting, again, the entity doing it one time. The entity doing it one time while I'm looking at content on the internet. Okay, content that is triggering to the end. The demons, these psychopaths, yeah, you're all being removed. A lot of you are being removed because you're going to prison. A lot of you are being removed because you're going to a mental asylum. A lot of you are being removed because you're not going to be allowed to just work anywhere that you want to or live anywhere that you want once you cannot get past that criminal record background check. Once you can't get past that background check in order to permit you to just live like, I want to be clear, when property management companies like AVANATH Capital Management find out, like the rest of the country is going to witness, that it's going to be costly to gang stalk occupants, to gang stalk residents, like Speaker Companies was in Los Angeles under the fake sun that was rising and setting over me at Alvarado Gardens. They're not going to welcome sex offenders and domestic terrorists like the people of the state at Woodside Senior Apartments, like LYNDA Reyes, like the demons who are going to walk away with criminal records, and those who are going to prison. That criminal record, high risk of that high recidivism, when you are engaging in what is a high threat of committing the same crime again, or committing a crime again, a violent crime again, which the demon-possessed are. These are psychopaths that are engaging in what is the pattern of conduct speaking to a psychopathic appetite with regard to sexual violence, with regard to psychological torture, and this is because of their condition. They're demons. This is demonic activity. The city of Ontario, Paul Leon, Michael Gherkin, Mike Lorenz, Alan D. Wapner, they practice demonic activity while they engage in terrorizing an American citizen. They're terrorizing and targeting myself, and I'm documenting it and prosecuting it. it. And the pattern of conduct is that the demon possessed, who are very much lacking in self-control, and that lack of self-control is helping as far as evidence goes, because they are walking in conformity to that pattern of conduct while they are being documented. And while they're being documented, and I'm subject to that pattern of conduct, which is also psychologically harmful, they're engaging in what is the criminal conduct when I'm documenting public officials, and then those public officials are then, it's beyond just being liable and being removed from office for gang stalking happening in that city. It's becoming a personalized threat by that public official as you document them by name, which is inevitable. It's inevitable that you're going to be documented by name. So I want to be clear, Alan D. Wapner is very specific. You're going to see his face plastered on what is my website, the P.O.C. website. He is a documentation highlight for today so that everyone can know who is monitoring this black woman's vagina on a serial basis. Who's spending millions of dollars of keeping my vagina under surveillance? This demon-possessed Jew's name is Alan D. Wapner. Who's engaging in psychological torture? Gang stalking with the people of the state? They're going to prison. They're going to prison. Units 33 through 64, they're going to prison. And this demon-possessed Jew is gang stalking with them while amplified noise is filling this apartment building because I'm documenting this sex offender monitoring my vagina, going by the name of Alan D. Wapner. These demons are going to federal prison and mental asylums while Impossible Light scanning across the defendant TRACEE Banks' ceiling, which is an established fact. And I'm going to, again, include that video so you can be reminded and see in real time in HD with your own eyes what Impossible Light activity is ongoing, based on the evidence that is published on my website and on my podcast for the world to see, and hostile demons that are engaging in surveillance, which you already know, while they engage in documented acts of retaliation, further confirming that what I've already proven through the POC, that you're engaging in criminal surveillance and that you're demons in doing so, engaging in what is the iteration of Impossible Light 10 plus times, because you're mad because this sex offender monitoring my vagina, Alan D. Wapner, his face is plastered on my website and on the podcast. That's what that's relevant to. It's also relevant to demons that are engaging in what is hostility while I view content that they're triggered by. Everything that I do, everything that I speak of, and everything that I document is the obsession of the demon possessed. And unbeknownst to whoever Alan D. Wapner is married to, if he's married at all, whatever it is that he is partnered up with, this demon possessed Jew is monitoring this black woman's vagina. And that needs to be known as well, because you're not going to engage in darkness targeting me and then engage in what is then, it is very specific and personalized. You're targeting with Impossible Light because I'm documenting you. You will get even more of a shout out. And that's relevant to a prosecution. It's not a shout out that's any sort of compliment. It's not a shout out that you are under any circumstances going to be proud of. It's not a shout out, by the way, that I am under any circumstances just giving out to people that I just want to pick on. I am documenting those who are targeting, engaging in terrorism and psychological torture. And these cowards do it to people that don't have the evidence to prove that it's happening to them. And since you want to engage in targeting somebody that you don't learn quick enough, it's not the person that you should target. I'm going to call out these sex offenders by name. Impossible Light activity happening inside of this apartment 10 plus times because this sex offender obsessed with my genitalia, obsessed with my vagina, having commercial planes fly over me, targeting me, pursuant to keeping me under surveillance because I'm documenting him by name on this podcast. And he knows very well that I put his unattractive face on my podcast and on my website, because the world needs to see a domestic terrorist by face and position. That's who's going to be removed, because he's a sex offender and because he's a demon. And demons become legally relevant when those demons are in government engaging in targeting American citizens. That's where it becomes legally relevant. That's where the spiritual realm, these demons that are targeting American citizens, they become a threat to the public when they're engaging in targeting and abusing positions of government in order to target that person. Moreover, that is the ultimate in gaslighting, in other words, to speak in the vernacular. They're targeting you and then they're going to blame you. In other words, you're mentally ill when you make the allegations that strangers are stalking you. The specific environment is the proof that you are being targeted, and it's demonic. And the entity is targeting in demonic means because the entity intends to falsely depict your character. This is what Alan D. Wapner has been engaged in for years. He didn't just start targeting in 2025. He is not a new terrorist. He's not a brand new green sex offender. The Ontario International Airport has been gang stalking, very heavily documented as a matter of record since 2018. Alan D. Wapner's exposure as a sex offender, as a demon-possessed Jew, is long overdue. And him and his gang stalking partner, Paul Leon, are also, they're going to be removed from office. So the entity filling this apartment with engineer lights scanning across the ceiling and then supplementing with amplified noise by this demon in Unit 55, who is not the explanation for amplified noise. They're not causing the ceilings and the walls to crack in. Like the sun in the natural environment does not sit over one building for 11 hours. It's demonic. And in that demonic environment, Alan D. Wapner spends a lot of money on monitoring my vagina. That's what the world needs to know. And because you're such a gross sex offender, and then you engage in more terrorism as I document you by name and position, and in order to identify you and enforce my rights against you, you resort to more acts of terrorism, and it is that personal. It is that specific because the entity is monitoring my documentation. As the demons are documented, so the demons retaliate. That's not going to bode well in federal court before evidence. You're not targeting somebody that can be falsely depicted in character anymore. You're targeting somebody that's prosecuting you. And I'm very specific, and I'm very detailed with the facts and the material to support it. This is relevant to mental illness that Alan D. Wapner suffers from. So that needs to be public information as well. He's not only a gross and violent sex offender, he is severely mentally demented. And that's also relevant to the gang stalking that's underway by the Ontario International Airport. In case you didn't connect that already, this is demonic. And the government's engaging in public corruption with the people of the state. And for anyone to engage in stalking someone and psychologically harming someone to that degree, you're using that level of targeting someone to crawl into a plane for one person, let alone what that one person is saying. Never mind the fact that it's free speech. That is psychopathic. That is somebody, by the way, that is in a position that has the sick mind to commit murder, that has the sick mind to engage in what is harming another person. This is somebody that is engaging in what is voyeurism. This is Alan D. Wapner. This is the reality, and this is relevant. I want you to make sure you look at that impossible light activity, because while that impossible light activity that you're going to see in video is occurring 10 plus times inside of this apartment, it's relevant to what was published today about Alan D. Wapner. It's relevant to demons like Alan D. Wapner having no place in my life ever. Ever, ever, ever. Just like Alan D. Wapner, this demon belongs in federal prison. He actually belongs in a mental ward. The demons that stalk with impossible light activity, the demons that like to engage in pacing and flying in circles repeatedly, like the demons of LAPD and the Ontario Police Department have engaged in one too many times. Let's say 12 too many times. Okay? Those are the ones that are going to be diagnosed and put in mental asylums as opposed to prison, because that's where you're going. It's not mysterious. It's not ambiguous. With regard to the information, it's called production in court. Your identity, you're not going anywhere, you're not hiding, you're not avoiding anything, and it's also not anonymous while impossible light activity is occurring in the apartment, and I'm documenting you by name, by office, by position. Okay, you are going to be prosecuted for that. And the entity is engaging in what is a very specific and very unique criminal pattern of conduct, which is also supported beyond Woodside Senior Apartment. Speaking to everything that I'm documenting, and the entity's pattern of conduct is going to be attributed to the corrupt government official that's being documented, because you're not going to threaten me in my face. You're not going to threaten me like a coward with impossible light activity. And you're always only showing your own mental sickness. But again, the world should know this, because you're obsessively consumed with my vagina that I never voluntarily showed to you. So you are long overdue for a mental check. Again, sir, it is currently 6:03 p.m., 10 plus times impossible light activity, and you're going to see the fake sun in the same position at 5:37 p.m. that it is at 10:40 a.m. Moreover, I'm going to include under the images of the domestic terrorist and the violent sex offender, Alan D. Wapner, what is video speaking to the impossible light activity that's occurring inside of this apartment 10 plus times, while I am referring to what is documentation of domestic terrorists. And this is the threat that the government, this is why the Ontario Police Department is being disbanded. Those are lunatics. They are neurotic. That's why they're stalking in helicopters, by the way. And everything that I'm describing is relevant to the P.O.C. But while you're aware of that, then I'm providing information that you are witnessing you can witness it on your own. I'm prosecuting. I'm legally analyzing, because you're going to prosecute under laws that exist and laws that shall come into existence. But they are literally, the demon possessed are literally demonstrating the truth that I'm speaking to you about their spiritual conditions. No sane person, nothing but a demon, would follow someone around and harass someone in a helicopter because you're sore about what they said about you, when you shouldn't be following them in the first place. Where's that irrational anger? They're demons. They're demons. Those are people that murder people. The demon possessed, somebody that engages that, they're inclined to commit murder. That's the same type of sick mindset that will kill somebody for no reason. That will kill someone and lie about it. That will kill someone and take advantage of a position that they have in order to control the narrative about what happened, to cover up what happened. Gang stalking is not a small thing. It's not just a matter of what is public corruption. I have shown you that the entity is gang stalking me from state to state. I drove from Pasadena, Arcadia, California to the state of Nevada. The sun is never sitting over Woodside Senior Apartments where the Ontario International Airport gang stalking me with this co-defendant, Alan D. WAPNER, at 5:47 in the evening when I am driving into Las Vegas, Nevada. There is no providence in the natural environment for both to occur at the same time. It's never happening. The fake sun is remaining over my vehicle while Nevada State Police are engaging in criminal summoning as I drive into the state of Nevada. Fake sun over my head. And that's where it was rising, in the state of Nevada. And then it remains over my vehicle as I drive back into the state of California. This is documented in August of 2024. You can look at the evidence. Everything that I speak of is supported with evidence because I understand how you prosecute. None of these demons have any cause of action regarding defamation. They're engaging in what is surveillance. Everything that they state, by the way, is automatically published. They're engaged in monitoring. They, by the way, the demons are the ones who lie. They engage in what is kidnapping. They're the ones that engage in manufacturing information. And I am bringing about factual information, the truth about what's actually going on in this state amongst a bunch of demons who are in positions that they're going to be removed from. And I'm also speaking to what is embarrassing truths that they don't want you to know about. And so they resort to documentation of, this is not helping Alan D. WAPNER's reputation. This is not helping the evidence with regard to exposing and removing Alan D. WAPNER from office. It's certainly not helping with regard to my prosecuting somebody such as Alan D. WAPNER with regard to his specific acts of posing an impermissible threat while I document this domestic terrorist by name and in possible light, which is an established fact, that which is inherently psychologically harmful, occurring 10 plus times, because I don't have to make up anything. My credibility has already been established. And when you are subject to what is criminal conduct by a corrupt government that's engaging in public corruption, it's going to take a credible source. It's going to take a consistent body of evidence. It's going to take a prolonged amount of time, which the P.O.C. from 2018 to 2025 has already accomplished that. But the entity is engaging in what is gang stalking me, and I can document it in real time via podcast, and I will prosecute you with it. You are always exposing yourself as being vulnerable to the evidence for a prosecution. This is not, under any circumstances, bearing any sort of negative light on me. I do not hold back on demons, and I will not hold back against criminals, especially cowards that engage in gang stalking. You sit around masturbating and salivating over my vagina. You use planes and helicopters keeping me under surveillance, millions of dollars, hundreds and hundreds of hours and manpower on me, minding my business. And my business has become investigating and documenting in order to prosecute you, since you're that obsessed and you cannot control yourself. It is currently 6:08 p.m. You will see these images uploaded to the Google Drive. It's directly relevant to what the Ontario International Airport is doing. Always be mindful. Targeting is identified by timing. What is it that I'm talking about when I document moments later the Ontario International Airport flying over me, and where are they doing it? Amongst impossible light activity that fills the apartment, under the fake sun that remains over this apartment, while I am in real time speaking about Alan D. WAPNER. What did I document today? I put Alan D. WAPNER's face on my website. I included him in the detail of the podcast description box. I am including what is video speaking to, I'm going to include this video speaking to impossible light activity because there is nothing that I'm describing that's under any circumstances any sort of made up information. The demon possessed have targeted the wrong person, but the wrong person is the correct person in order to expose them, to remove them from the positions that they've stolen from competent people, from law-abiding people, from people who are not demon possessed, because demon possession now becomes relevant to what the public should be concerned about. We don't want demons in office. Demons actually hate mankind, and they're also engaged in what is unlawful means of surveillance and psychologically torturing people that may not agree with them or like them. So trying to kill them, trying to psychologically torture and terrorize them because you disagree, that's also not acceptable for any public official. This is what Alan D. WAPNER is engaging in while I'm documenting him. And this sex offender knows exactly what I'm stating. Hiding under some headpiece, that's a demon-possessed gang stalker that is trying to identify as some Jew. Okay? Now, there may be Jewish people that take offense to that, but it's not what I'm stating that you should take offense with. You should take offense with somebody that is walking with Satan, wearing a headdress, identifying themselves, or wanting to be confused with someone who is Jewish. Okay, because Alan D. Wapner is a demon-possessed person, period. And he's a corrupt government actor, more importantly, and he's engaged in what is terrorism. This is documented acts of domestic terrorism. It's psychological torture. It's demonstrated impunity, and it's high-level malice. While the same demons of Woodside Senior Apartments are gang stalking like they are every other moment, and now they're doing it while I'm documenting Alan D. Wapner, and it's relevant to what I've also published on the podcast and what I published on my website. I will prosecute none of you are impervious to prosecution. Just so that you know that, you are fully vulnerable, in case you have not realized that now. You are fully vulnerable, and there is no anonymity with stalking with the possible light activity. Under all circumstances, you're losing your position in government, but as you engage in what is posing an impermissible threat, just like these demons who are going to be looking at homelessness, when they're removed from this apartment complex, you're going to be, with regard to loss of position from office, you're going to be looking at what is a prosecution, and you're going to lose whatever status or whatever identity that you think you hold. I'm going to let you know what you are. You're a demon. You are nothing but a demon. There's no respecter of persons. You are pathetic. You are the cockroach of humanity. That's why you're a sex offender monitoring my genitalia, engaging in the most egregious and shameful, ridiculously corrupt conduct that no one could think of or fathom. I have to document it in order to prove it. That's how corrupt and disgusting you are. And that's why engineer light is swiping across the ceiling inside of this living room 10 plus times. So you look at the face of Alan D. Wapner while I'm documenting this. And this is, again, Alan D. Wapner's impunity. The demons are a bunch of gang members, and these gang members are as defunct and are as outdated as being a blood in the 1990s. Okay, this is long outdated and overdue and played out. They're engaging in the same cycle. You're getting to public officials, and you will be. You're not a superior. I will prosecute you in court, and you'll realize it in court. You can be as delusional as you want, listening to those demons. Okay, Alan D. Wapner is a demon-possessed person. You can listen to those demons all you want. But these gang stalkers who are co-defendants with regard to the prosecution of an entity that's engaging in domestic terrorism through satanic means, recognized in an environment pursuant to a pattern of conduct which is very distinct and specific. And it's pure targeting. You are targeting me while I'm documenting you. You want to target me, I want to prosecute you. That's what's going to happen. It's as simple as that. It's 6:12 p.m. This is P.O.C. These images are going to be uploaded to the Google Drive, where you will see the fake sun at 5:37 p.m., the same position it was at 10:40 a.m., where the people of the state are engaging in what is gang stalking while engineer light is swiping across the ceiling inside a tray. Remember who is gang stalking? TRACEE Banks. When you're looking at her walking into the kitchen, she's monitoring me. That's all you're doing inside of an apartment filled with engineer. That's all you're doing under the fake sun. That's all you're doing with the government. The unintelligent gang stalkers of the city of Ontario, they're very highly unintelligent. Intelligence, ability, by the way, is not cleanly defined just by virtue of position. Alan D. Wapner, Exhibit A, okay? This person, I don't even have to come into contact with him in order to prosecute him for and removal from office regarding federal group stalking and monitoring gang stalking. The pattern of conduct, this is classic P.O.C. Classic. While a gang stalker is hostile, while you have the identity to call out a corrupt government actor, so then you're subject to terrorism inside of the apartment. There's no anonymity here. Alan D. Wapner, unless you want to end up in federal prison, the entity is engaging in what is the pattern of conduct, and that impunity that you act with, that's how intense that federal law is going to work against you, okay? This is different landscaping. Since the entity is engaging in what is satanic behavior targeting American citizens, you're understanding your ability to be prosecuted. So your illusions are going to come back and haunt you. It is currently 6:14 p.m. This is P.O.C.